recapping, that purpose of the seminar is to enable direct observation by people who are here. So once again, this is not an expert telling you what to do with, this is not a parenting workshop. It's an opportunity for us to relook at how do we, once again become learners and start learning what children are doing, And you will find that once you start really observing, you will find that most of the myths that modernity has promoted are absolutely wrong. Number one is that children need toys. That's one. Secondly, that everybody now thinks that children like bright colors. If you just think back, 20 years ago, nobody ever talked about this. Or maybe 15 years ago, there was hardly any mention of bright colors for children. Suddenly, everybody picked it up, and now everything is bright. So just but have you ever done an inquiry into, is this right? So I would now try to look at how did the introduction of toy impact the total system of the child. First of all, how did the toy find way into children's lives? You see, if you look at the actual life of a child, life is not fragmented and compartmentalized into work, learn, play, which is what we have created now. In the modern scenario, there is work, there is learn, there is play, and we have different value to this. Naturally, work has become child labor. No child is allowed to work. So if you go into a traditional artisan community or a farmer community, nobody seems to work, and everybody seems to hate work now. So that we have very successfully created that. Then learning, of course, which is given the most importance, but because it is so boring, not many people are really interested in that. And then in the evening, we have something called play. And in order to play, we started creating these little toys, toy to play with. So it's very interesting that how this whole new paradigm created a very, very different logic to everything. And what did toy do to play? Or what did this fragmentation of this do to us? So toy turned play into playfulness, which is actually the nature of the child, was turned into a now small activity called play. Right? So we created compartments in which children are compelled to do certain things, which we call play, which we call learn, and then we have the evening to play, to have fun. So we actually divided a totality of life into, because for a child there is only activity, there is no division. Every activity the child used to enjoy, every activity, without calling it work, learn, play, because these were all integrated into one. Playfulness was what was happening all the time, and learning is the byproduct of that. It's not a purpose. Learning happens anyway. It's not a choice. How do we actually, I was also thinking that, how do we defeat our, do self goals is something that I thought we should talk about. So, for example, when we say children like bright colors, this theory, how we defeat our own inquiry is by providing them all those bright colors. And then we see that children are really enjoying it. So we think we have proved our theory. It's the same thing with the fact that you are giving toys and the child is enjoying it. So you assume that the children are liking toys. So we have framed certain questions in a certain manner. And so naturally we are seeing it what we want to see. But have you observed what is actually the true nature of a child? The nature of a child is to be contented, to be happy, whether you give toys or not, because that is their whole thing. Is there is a basic structure to their being, and they would like everything. This is not something that that because of you. It's not because of you, because of what you give. It's in their nature. So we will look at what really happens to a child as the children are exploring the world outside, their inner world, the qualities, abilities gets awakened and developed. What this means is that all the senses are a two-way tool. The senses connect to the outside world, and the outside world, awakens what is inside them. So this is a two-way process in which your sensitivity, your ability to sense each and everything are depending upon the world, things that are outside. Awakening senses is a choiceless act. Whatever is happening will be registered on its own. The child doesn't have to make any special effort. But the normal nature is to stay in a certain kind of an idle, in a state of mind in which it is mildly aware of what is happening around it. So suddenly something happens, a sound happens, immediately the attention will go there, or it's like that. So whenever something happens that demands attention, the child's attention will go there. Otherwise, it is in a state of readiness. You could call it a state of readiness. So that is how the child is being there. So when you introduce a new object which is not to do with its life, that is when you start confusing the child. When you give a rattle, to a child, you start making that noise. Of course, the child will look at it because that is its nature to look at it. But what is its actual role in the real scheme of things in life? What is its real role? Won't the child don't use its ability to hear without those rattle? Won't it listen to the mother? Won't it listen to every sound that is happening around it? So why is it that we have decided that rattle is important? So to once again stating this, that playfulness is the quality that children are born with to explore the world. So it is not something that, you see, one very important thing is that children are inherently having all these abilities. There is nothing new you can give. The only thing that is required is a space of freedom so that they can autonomously respond and awaken what they have. But of course, the environment, you can create an environment which is killing the child, which is destroying all these abilities, or which is awakening all its abilities. And the toy is a sure shot, method to first of all, what is the child wants to learn? That's the question we should ask. What is that the child wants to learn? Is it your rattle, or is it the way the life functions? What is that the child wants to know? Why do they want to know? Is it to become somebody's knocker somewhere, somebody's slave somewhere, or is it to be a being? Is it a full being that is spiritually aware, ecologically sensitive? What is that we want our children to be? Or what is the nature of the child? Let's not ask about what do we want them to be. What would be the idea of nature when it is producing children? What does it want the child to be? Will nature want children to be self-destructive? So how come that we educated have turned against life? So what one is trying to say is that the only activity the child is trying to do is to make sense of the world and to realize its true dharma, to really become a sensitive being of the earth.